Hello everyone! We're in the middle of the Christmas season now, so I thought it would be appropriate to do a video talking about some of my favorite Christmas movies. There are hundreds of Christmas movies, old, new, somewhere in the middle, movies that are centered around Christmas, movies where Christmas is kind of a background setting, movies that have only one or two scenes that take place at Christmas time. With so many movies to choose from, it was tough to decide which ones to talk about, but I think I've narrowed it down. Sort of. I have to start with A Christmas Carol. I haven't seen all the adaptations, but I've seen a lot, yet over the years my two favorites have remained the same. The 1951 version with the inimitable Alastair Sim as Ebenezer Scrooge, and The Muppets Christmas Carol from 1992 with Michael Caine as Scrooge. The 1951 version for many is the definitive adaptation. It stays true to Dickens' tale, but also adds some of its own twist to Scrooge's backstory, and my favorite part is Alastair Sim's performance. When his Scrooge wakes up on Christmas morning and goes absolutely nutty with glee, it's the best. The Muppets version has a huge nostalgic pull. It does a great job incorporating the human and Muppet characters, and I love having Gonzo as Dickens tell the story. I love the music and the humor and the fourth wall breaking and the heartfelt moments. It's an energetic version, easy for kids and adults alike to love. If you're a fan of A Christmas Carol like I am, I invite you to check out the series I did a couple years ago called 12 Days of A Christmas Carol, in which I reviewed the 11 versions of A Christmas Carol that we had in our house on VHS tape, and another one just to make it an even dozen. Another favorite of mine is Home Alone, the 1990 film in which 8-year-old Kevin McAllister accidentally gets left behind when his family goes away on Christmas vacation and he has to defend his home from two burglars. While I mostly enjoyed the movie for its slapstick when I was little, I appreciate it now as one of those movies that hits all the emotions. It's funny, when I was a kid it was a little bit scary, and then ultimately, something I've realized as I've gotten older and more sensitive to things like this, it has a couple great scenes that choke me up. It also does a good job capturing the chaos of a large family, that whole "this house has so many people in it, it makes me sick" thing, and the relatable ups and downs of being a little kid left to fend for yourself, wanting to do all the things you've never been allowed to get away with, yet also wanting to prove you can take care of yourself like a responsible adult. With a memorable cast and a stirring John Williams soundtrack, this is a film that may show its age a little in terms of fashion. It is over 25 years old after all, but it hasn't lost its effectiveness. The next one is something I consider more a Christmas/New Year's film. The 1995 romantic comedy While You Were Sleeping, starring Sandra Bullock and Bill Pullman. Sandra Bullock plays a lonely Chicago Transit token collector who ends up saving the life of a guy she has a crush on, even though she's never really spoken to him. Due to a massive misunderstanding at the hospital prolonged by his being in a coma, his family believes she's his fiancée and eagerly welcomes her into their Christmas festivities. Finding herself going from having no one to suddenly being part of a wonderfully awkward family makes it hard for her to correct the mistake, and matters only get more complicated when an attraction develops between her and her fake fiancé's brother. This one's a big family favorite. Well, maybe it's just us girls in the family that like it. Not sure how much my dad or my brothers-in-law actually enjoy it, but they've all had to sit through it a few times. Since we watched it so frequently for a time in the late 90s, this and Independence Day, yeah, there was a Bill Pullman thing going on, it became one of our most quoted movies. Is it silly? Yeah. Could the misunderstanding have been resolved sooner? Definitely. But then we wouldn't have this fun, quirky, romantic movie. Another movie that's sort of Christmassy but more post-Christmas is Bachelor Mother from 1939, which stars Ginger Rogers as a temporary worker in a department store who ends up with an abandoned baby on her hands. Rogers' boss, played by David Niven in one of his funniest roles, is appalled by Rogers' apparent rejection of her child, so he tries to help her out, except when it comes to babies, he's about as clueless as she is. This is not a movie I grew up watching. I only saw it for the first time a few years ago, but I really enjoyed it. It has several memorable scenes. Rogers and Niven play off each other really well. Their quipping, plus the zaniness of the plot, makes this a really fun movie, whether you're watching it at Christmas time, or at New Year's, or any other time of the year. And the fifth movie, which it would be absolutely criminal of me not to mention, is 1946's It's a Wonderful Life. To be perfectly honest, I've seen this entire film start to finish just once, which makes me feel like I should turn in my classic film fan credentials. But my excuse is, I missed out on the public domain period when it was played on TV 6 dozen times between Thanksgiving and Christmas, and I couldn't watch our VHS copy when I was younger because my older siblings had worn it out. So I wasn't exactly raised on it, and I'm not the biggest It's a Wonderful Life expert. However, I do know this. It's a great movie. Inspiring, bold, a little heartbreaking, weaving its way between comedy and tragedy. The entire cast of supporting actors and character actors is great, and Jimmy Stewart is fantastic. His very natural acting style makes George Bailey one of the most believable, relatable characters ever on film. This is another incredibly quotable movie, and one that many people hold dear, not just as a Christmas favorite, but as a favorite of all time. Okay, that's the bulk of my list, but here are some honorable mentions before I go. Trapped in Paradise, a 1994 comedy in which Nicolas Cage gets roped into robbing a bank with his two convicted criminal brothers, but they fail to make their getaway, and when the sweet and generous townspeople do everything they can to help them, it becomes a crisis of conscience. I revisited this movie for the first time in a long time last year. I admit it was a little dumber than I remembered, but I still enjoyed it. My favorite character has always been the sarcastic FBI agent played by Richard Jenkins, who gets progressively more fed up with the gross incompetence of his subordinates and pretty much every person that he comes across as he tries to track down these robbers. The Year Without a Santa Claus. This is one of the Rankin Bass films, and another family favorite, probably because of those snazzy Heat Miser and Cold Miser numbers. I don't actually remember much about this one, aside from those two characters and their songs. Santa is sick in bed and won't be able to deliver the presents, and two goofy elves and a sad little reindeer with a cold go out on a mission to do something. I'm generally not into Santa movies, but this is a fun little feature. And lastly, I'll Be Seeing You, a lesser-known Christmas drama from 1944 in which Ginger Rogers plays a parolee. Wow, 2 Ginger Rogers films in this video. And Joseph Cotten plays a soldier recently released from a mental hospital. They meet by chance on a train en route to Rogers' home, and though both decide not to disclose too much about themselves, Rogers invites him to celebrate Christmas with her family, and they slowly draw each other out. This is probably the most serious movie on this list overall, and since it stars Joseph Cotten, one of my favorites, it earns some bonus points. Though, if I'm trying to choose a favorite Joseph Cotten Christmas movie, I might give that spot to Since You Went Away, one of my favorite old World War II movies, which happens to have a couple Christmas scenes in it. So those are some of my favorite Christmas movies. I'd love to know what you like to watch around this time of year. Christmas movies, New Year's movies, winter movies, anything counts really. So go ahead and share your favorites in the comments below, and I'll be looking forward to reading them. Thanks for watching. Bye!